Okay, now we're live. Cool. So cool. So yeah, so the idea, Ben, was to, as I said before, I'm doing a lot of research for the past, what, 4 weeks, I think, probably a little bit more than that. Started delving into IoT, right? Because pisses me off all the time about, IoT is insecure and these are the things on how to secure it. And you start reading the recommendations, and at the beginning, the first time you start reading it, you're like, yeah, that makes sense, right? So the first thing that you read is identity, right? How do you identify devices? And then the next thing is encrypted communications, and then the next thing is I don't know what else they go, right? But they just go into identity and encrypted communications, right? And so I got tired, man. I don't know about you, but I got tired every time I read, an article on securing IoT, or insecurity in IoT. It always ended with that very global uh, thing, right? And that just pissed me off. So I decided to start doing research on IoT, to find out, what the heck was I missing? I mean, it cannot be that simple. How about you? I mean, are you doing anything on IoT? Any research on that? I mean, I know that you were studying for your CISSP, which is pretty cool, on a holiday, and you're studying, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man, I got to make use of that downtime.
Yeah.
Idle hands are the devil's workshop. That's what grandma used to say. I'm not doing too much with IoT sec right now. Most of my focus is still in incident response and I guess threat intelligence. Although, if we don't do something about this IoT sec, there's definitely going to be a lot of incidents stemming from it. So maybe I should be putting more
Yeah.
research into it.
Yeah, no, before we came online, I was watching this video about IoT security, and there's this guy showing a video by some BlackBerry people. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was showing a live, and this was interesting. It was a live hack of a kettle, right? So you know how people make fun that all these smart devices, the smart toaster and everything. So there's actually a kettle that has a Wi-Fi connection, right? You put it in your home, connect to your Wi-Fi, and what you do is through your smartphone, you can tell it, by the like if you're 10 minutes away from home, you can tell it, go ahead and start boiling the water, right? So when I get home, I have nice boiled water. First of all, I think that's freaking dangerous, right?
Yeah, I mean, God forbid you have to wait an extra 10 minutes to heat your water up to 200 plus degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my goodness. So, physically that's dangerous. Why there's a short circuit? You're not there. By the time you get there, your house is on fire. It's like kind of freaking weird. But anyway, so these guys went ahead and they said, okay, so this is the silliest thing, right? And you don't think anything about it, right? Again, as a layperson, all you want is your hot coffee or hot tea when you get home, right? It's a convenience, correct?
You want that availability. It needs to
Yeah,
work when you need it to work.
exactly. So, but hackers are hackers, right? And they know that you are the, I don't know, CEO of a company or director of a company, right? So what these guys demonstrated was how simple it was to hack into this person's Wi-Fi network. And basically, what they did is they connected, Wireshark or whatever, and they're showing, all the packets coming in, and they say, this is pretty good setup at the Wi-Fi at the home. Wi-Fi is secure, and all communication is encrypted. It's fantastic. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. And they started sending a regular Wi-Fi command, which is disconnect. So basically, the first thing is they set up a rogue AP, because how many people at home have set up the device to detect rogue APs? Not many, right?
No.
Exactly, right. So this guy set up a rogue AP. They gave it the same SSID as the home AP, right? And then once it was set up, they proceeded to send signals where they tell the kettle to disconnect from the Wi-Fi. It's not a hacking. It's nothing. It's a regular. According to these guys, it's a regular Wi-Fi. It's the way Wi-Fi works. You can send a disconnect, and and the device will disconnect after a certain time. So once it disconnects, then the device reconnects to your rogue AP, right? And now the device is no longer encrypted. So what they do is they know the IP address of this device, obviously. So then they go ahead and they telnet it to the device, and that's you know number one thing of IoT. A lot of the people that write the applications for IoT have nothing to do with security, right? They have no idea. They just put a freaking, Linux OS. By the way, is it Linux or Linux? I say Linux. I don't know because I'm Latin, but I hear all
I,
these people saying Linux, so I don't know.
I say Linux.
I
That's
say
how I heard it
Linux.
first.
So anyway, so all these developers, right? That's all they do. They just focus on doing an app that talks to the phone. So they put, the device, the IoT CPU device itself, not the kettle, but the device itself comes with Linux installed, right? And they don't go to the basics of removing unnecessary programs, applications, right? So this kettle has the telnet daemon running right on there on the kettle. So the guys telnet to the box and it asks them for a password. After a time, they figure out that the password was like 6 zeros, right? So it could have,
Sounds about right.
yeah, exactly.
And at least they increased it from 6 to 4,
From 4 to 6, yeah, exactly.
or 4 to 6. Yeah.
So so anyway, so then they have access to the kettle. What they did then is they did a Linux command, root command, that actually showed them the password, the secret password that had been hashed or had been stored clear text on the kettle. So now they have the secret password for the network for encrypted communications. Now you got the keys to the kingdom inside your house, right? And so those are the things that it tells me. Okay, so and I was having this conversation with Joe Gray as well. It's like you can't expect the person that bought the kettle just because they want to make sure that they have hot water by the time they get home. You cannot expect those people to know what the hell a rogue AP is or how to remove a telnet or a
Right.
firewall.
Or even if you put some sort of disclaimer or security awareness thing through the terms and conditions, they're just going to click through it anyway.
Exactly, exactly. So this brings me back to your when you said that maybe you should start paying attention to that because you being in incident response and all these IoT devices coming on board, right? So imagine somebody brings this IoT kettle to their office, right?
Hmm.
To their to their desk. Would you think people will be able to have access to that kettle device in your corporate network now from outside?
I think I think it depends on the organization you're in. I think for a lot of smaller ones and things like that, absolutely they would. But I think for any organization or enterprise that has a halfway decent security posture, that the device isn't going to be able to connect to the network.
Okay. So so that's one. Another thing that kills me is the experts coming out and saying, well, your network should be micro-segmented, right? And zero trust networks, right? We've heard those terms, correct? The
Right.
zero trust networks, right? Now there was and they're coming up with that because that's the flavor of the month, right? It was a few weeks ago that all these routers, I forget who the manufacturer was, that it was found out that they were susceptible to an attack from the local area network side. Remember that thing?
Yeah, I think it had something to do with the T-Mobile routers too, right? It was whichever
Something,
vendor was making those.
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. And basically, what they were saying is that they were not authenticating any commands that came from the local area network side because they assumed that if it's connected on the network, then on your local area network, then is a trusted device. So there's no reason to do authentication, right, of the commands. Yeah, exactly. You laugh. I laugh too, right? So that's the flavor recommendation flavor of the month when it comes to IoT secure. Well, you need to make sure that you don't trust any devices in your network. Dude, do you know how freaking difficult it is to make sure to implement zero trust network microsegmentation in a network?
Uh, I do. And it's not an easy feat. I mean, it's one of the things that you actually taught me last year sometime through the podcast was with just doing proper network segmentation
Hmm.
and just doing a even a broad scope of network segmentation is a beast in itself. And if you want to start diving down deeper and deeper, it's next to impossible. I mean, it can be done, and I guess people argue, say, well, automation is the key, blah, blah, blah. But you still have to
Mhm.
have somebody implement all that. And there
Yeah,
still has to be somebody who's going to monitor all of that at the end of the day. And then you look, when you go down that, then it's more overhead. And
correct,
that's something that shareholders and business people, or they don't want to hear that.
correct. So again, those are examples of what was getting me really, really upset when I was getting into doing the research into IoT security, because I realized that nobody knows how the heck to secure IoT, right? That's basically it. I mean, they're treating, this is my opinion, treating IoT security the same, thinking that it's the same way as regular enterprise security. And it's not the case, because those are two completely different ecosystems, right? So this is where I started, going down the rabbit hole, because where do you start, right? Where do you start? I mean, if you want to say, fine, we can secure the devices by using certificates, X509 certificates, right? Then the first thing that comes to mind is that, one of the things that you hear about IoT devices is that they are very small, inexpensive, right? Devices that only do one thing. They collect information, and they communicate that information somewhere. That's all they do, right? They don't come with, like four CPUs, super duper CPUs with, 8 gigs of RAM and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Because if they do, all of a sudden they're not IoT. They're just your smartphone or or a tablet. So when we talk about IoT, we're talking about very small, very inexpensive devices, right? That's what we're saying. Your Fitbits. You don't expect your Fitbit to have, like 4 quad processing and, and 8 gig. Those things are very little, very cheap, very inexpensive stuff, right?
Right. It's like a dollar store of computing.
Exactly. So tell me then, how do you then come up as a security expert and say, yeah, just use, X509 certificates in those devices? Where the hell are you going to store that stuff?
Where are you going to store it? Who's going to maintain their certificate database and all that stuff?
you you start going into completely freaking different stuff, right? So I started going down that path, and I stopped really quick, right? I started going into the X509 PKI framework and everything, because haven't done too much into that, and I started going into it and find out exactly what it means, right? And there's people out there that are experts at certificates and PKI and stuff like that. So I may be saying something wrong here, but you know, the first thing that I realized is what you just said, right? The management of the certificates. When we're talking about IoT devices, we're not talking about one or two. We're talking, hundreds and hundreds being purchased at a time by companies, right? A Let's say a utility company, they're not going to buy 1 or 2 meters, smart meters. They're going to get thousands at a time.
right.
So if you're going to say, if you're a consultant, security consultant, and you say, fine, then we're going to do authentication and encryption on these devices using certificates. Again, how are you going to manage 1,000 certificates, right? And then you start going into, and I'm finding a whole bunch of stuff that they're calling onboarding and stuff like that, the whole process about IoTs. Where do you actually install the certificates? At the manufacturer? Is the manufacturer of that IoT platform, do they install the certificates? Or do you install them as the owner of this end product?
I mean, I think from a security standpoint, it should be you. Um,
Okay, but then how do you verify that that device that you're installing actually came directly from the manufacturer to begin with? How do you know that that meter that you're getting wasn't stopped somewhere? There wasn't a man in the middle somewhere, and they put some
right.
of those devices right that look just like those devices, but they've been compromised. How do you ensure that? Right. So you see what I'm getting at? So the more you start reading, they're like, well, because you have certificates and the manufacturer certified that. It's like, and then they give you, they give you the database or the list of certificates, so you know that those devices are part of that original certificate list, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh my God, this is. You see where I'm going with this?
Right. It's a can of worms. You open up one, and there's just one problem after another. The further down you
Oh
go,
my
it's
God.
just
Not only that, so then what I'm finding, and this is the reason why I decided to start this IoT3Sec Twitter handle and start this IoT3Sec video cast focus on IoT, is so that I can, you know, have conversations with people who are also who are real experts on IoT, not me, or who are beginning their journey like I am, so we can exchange ideas, right? So let me just stop there because you realize, right? Like you say, it's a kind of worms. You open one, and it's like, oh my God, look at all those little worms in there. I didn't know this was under the hood. So let me stop there and just share with you what I've learned in the past 4 weeks, uh, and then you tell me what you think.
okay.
Make sense? So, first thing that I've learned is that all IoT devices are not the same, right? So there are multiple industries in IoT, right? So you have the automotive industry, which is the same. It's not the same as the transportation industry, by the way. It's two different things, right? So automotive, you have your smart cars, all that stuff. Then you have the transportation, which is transportation. Then you have the industrial, which is also has it's also you also hear industrial IoT or IIoT, which is basically your manufacturing, it's your critical infrastructure, your smart grids, right? That's all industrial. Then you have your medical, right? That's all the cool stuff that are coming up in that field. Then you have entertainment, right? Which are your smart TVs and stuff like that, or actually it's not there. It's your Google glasses, your VR stuff like that, right? Then you have your home, which is a combination of entertainment and industrial, because you could have your smart thermostat, right? Or again, you could have your smart meter that is connected to your home. Who knows, right? But it's a combination of both within the home. Then you have the which is the scary one, is the toy industry, right? Both adult and children. Now you did hear this thing about uh, an adult toy, a sex toy, right? Then that collects information and sends it to the cloud, to the manufacturer. I, dude, that's taking it too
It's for
far.
data analytics, so they can optimize the best times of eroticism.
I don't know. Dude, sometimes it's like, well, we're taking this thing too far away. I'm like, what the hell do you put a freaking IoT on a sex toy? Oh my God. but I can see a lot of hackers having a good time hacking the hell out of that freaking toy. So, but anyway,
Yeah,
so right, so you have, I mean, this is the way personally is the way that I'm seeing it, right? So you have all of those things. Then you start to realize that, as I said before, security for IoT is completely different than security from enterprise, right? What we know in the computers and smartphones, because the type of devices are very different depending on the industry, right? And again, I'm just learning this as I go along, so I may be saying some bad stuff, but I don't think so. So I'm going to say that a Fitbit, which is a wearable, part of the personal, which again we didn't put personal. That's another industry, right? So the wearable personal devices. I want to say that the Fitbit device is a little bit, not a little bit, it's a lot less, um, let's say, it's a lesser technical design than a smart meter. I want to go on the edge there and make that statement. Say that smart meters are usually more more thought has been put into the technical design of a smart meter device than a Fitbit. You agree with me on that one?
probably so.
Okay. So so I want to say then that a Fitbit device will have less resources, both CPU, memory, than a smart meter, correct?
You would think so.
Okay. So see where I'm getting there. So now all of a sudden X509 certificates for IoT security goes out the window, correct?
Right. How many
I,
Fitbits have been sold?
I, I mean, again, I don't know, but you see what I'm saying? What I'm getting at, that all this blanket recommendation from security experts when it comes to IoT, when you hear somebody saying that, you have to run away from that person, because it's someone that to me is just a charlatan. It's just talking out of their butt, right? They say, oh yeah, I know IoT, but actually they haven't done the research, and that's why I got into it, right? So anyway, so when you go with that, you're going to also assume that the OS that's on the Fitbit is not the same type of OS on the smart meter. Yeah. And that the CPU on the OS on the Fitbit is not the same as the CPU on the smart meter. So right there we have two different industries, right? With different hardware and software characteristics. And that's where
Right.
we
So you're going to be looking at different architecture and, I
there you
guess,
go.
exploit vectors entirely.
There you go. So once you understand that it's different hardware, different software, different architectures, now you need to figure out, like as you said, what are the what's the what do they call it? A threat map? Is that what they call it? Or attack map? What's it called? What do
Yeah.
you guys
I
call
guess
it?
threat modeling you could
Threat
do.
modeling,
Yeah.
where you figure out what are the multiple ways that somebody can attack this solution, and then based on that you give it a priority, and then you're like, okay, we're going to focus on this and this first, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so once you understand the architecture, then you know what your limits are, right? So again, so if somebody says, well, the way to resolve security in IoT is to identify and encrypt communications by putting certificates, it went out the window, because it doesn't apply to everything, right? It's just to certain type of devices, and depending on the industry. But then you go back to the information that is being collected, right? So for Fitbit, right, people say, well, it's just, it's collecting my how many steps I took today, how many calories I burned, what my diet, how am I doing my diet and everything. And that's all personal information, right? Um, I would say that that's one of the most important things to safeguard your personal information.
It
Um,
is, and I think that's an issue within itself. I'm waiting for that to be leveraged against someone in some sort of, be it, data breach or hack, anything like that, like the
s-
Apple Health Kit stuff or the Fitbit, any of that stuff. I'm just waiting for that to come.
right, because again, so let's take a step by step, because this is the way that I've been doing it, right? Step by step on how a Fitbit works. Correct. So Fitbit, you put your little thing on your wrist, and then you set up an app on your smartphone or your PC or your tablet. You enable Bluetooth because it uses Bluetooth, right? So you enable Bluetooth on your equipment. Right, that right there puts a stop to me on wearable devices because I am not enabling Bluetooth
No,
anywhere, right? Because as soon as you go to a convention, a hackers convention, the first thing that people are the basics, right? They measure and they see who has Bluetooth enabled, and that's it. Game's over, right? And if you have your wearable next to you and you put that application on your smartphone, chances are you forgot to disable Bluetooth on your smartphone or your tablet or your PC, and you're owned.
all the time, man. I mean, it's not even at hacker conventions. It's like Jason Street had posted something on Twitter, I guess a week or so ago, where he was holding up a sign on the street and it was written in real small print. It's something like, "If you can read this, thank you for all your data," or whatever. And on the other side, he had like a Pony Express tablet where he was taking, people's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth info and
That's
just
what it
passing
was.
it
I
around
didn't.
on the street.
I saw that. I didn't know what that was behind all that technology behind. That's what he was doing. He was just grabbing everybody's signals.
I think so. I think that's what he was doing.
That
I
is
can barely
funny.
remember yesterday, let alone last week, but I'm pretty sure it was something to that effect. But I
That's
mean,
funny.
even still, you still have tools that are becoming cheaper and cheaper that you can just grab these signals out of the air with, and people
Jesus,
are none the wiser. I
that's
mean,
incredible.
you look at, I mean, I guess you still need a little bit of technical ability to use like the Wi-Fi pineapples and these sniffers and things like that, but it's not going to be long before it's going to be a push button experience.
Yeah,
Just
script
you
kiddie
know,
type of thing.
right,
So so anyway, I mean, and that's what I'm saying, right? So as soon as you start to open up all those holes, right? You and I and people listening to this in the future will, in the infosec will understand. We're like, oh man, Bluetooth. But the regular person, my wife, she doesn't. What the hell is Bluetooth? It's like, is it a real Bluetooth?
right.
Right? So so yeah, regular people don't know, right? And then what happens with this information? So it gets collected by the application, and then that application connects somewhere out on the web, right, on the cloud, and sends that information to the cloud, and it gets
Which
stored,
I'm gonna
right?
stop you right there. That's another problem within itself. Is what kind of security mechanisms does this cloud provider have in place?
Correct, correct. So I know that before you set everything up, you have to create an account, right, in the cloud with your password and everything. Okay. So yeah, right there it opens up a whole bunch of questions, like you said, right? The first thing is that communication between your device and the cloud service provider, is that encrypted or clear text? I don't know. I don't
We're
know.
we're at gambling, man, and being what you said about problems with certificates, I'm gonna say it's probably being sent in clear text.
I don't know. Right. So then you start thinking, you start going and you're saying, okay, so who's I mean, you're going to assume, and we stick with this Fitbit because I think it's going to be pretty cool. So you have a developer, right, who you're going to assume all he's doing right now is creating an application that collects that information, vital personal information from your Fitbit, and sends it to the cloud so that you as a client have access to that, right? And all they're worried about is creating a beautiful dashboard that shows you everything, right? Pretty
Right.
sure nowhere in there did security come into play. As in everything else, it probably came in later, right? As bolted on, correct? Or am I wrong on that assumption?
I'd say you're probably right, and I mean that poses. another thing in itself. I mean, I think it was you that said before that, when it comes to building out a network, it should just be get the network running, and then security should be, an icing on top of the cake to secure the network. You don't want a whole lot of complexity involved in things.
Correct.
So I wonder if, because I got to be probably the world's worst coder alive. I don't even like saying that I'm a coder, but my professor did when I wrote "Hello World."
He said you were the worst.
Oh no, he didn't say I was the worst. He was just like, "Hey, congratulations, you are now a coder."
Oh my God. So
but
let me share something. Let me share something. Hopefully it'll make it. Tell me if it makes it. Do you see my screen?
I do.
Okay, good. So this is from I was watching this before this podcast or this video cast, and and as it shows there on the left, right, or on the right, in orange, it tells you, the application should communicate with mobiles, cloud, central database, and IoT sensors from all our suppliers. It must be fast and secure. Yeah, secure. I'm pretty sure that was put in there later, and we need it
Right.
next week, right? So again, imagine this developer for the Fitbit, right? Where it doesn't matter, it's cloud agnostic. It doesn't matter where you put it in there, whatever. The thing that I want you to take a look at on the left under developer pane, you see
Hmm.
all the little things. Those are just
Right.
a few of the freaking standards in IoT. Do you
So I guess it
understand?
seems like there needs to be some consolidation between that.
So we go to that one later. So anyway, so going back, I get okay. I'm learning to use these tools here. So he said to present to everyone. So anyway, so going back to our statement here. So most probably the developer did not put any type of encryption algorithm or anything in that application that communicates to the cloud, right? But here we go, right? All of a sudden there is a area somewhere in the cloud, we don't even know where, that has bands, you know up to the second uh, health information, right? Up to the second. And but Ben has no idea where it's being stored, who has access to it. that,
Who are
that
they
that's a big
selling
thing
that data off to
for
is
this.
another thing.
Exactly, because we said, yeah, we want to use that, and we gave the yeah, you can do whatever you want with the data. Just show me, how many steps I took today, and if I burned 300 calories or not. That's all I want to know, right? Because who wants to know? Who cares that Ben is losing a lot of pounds because he likes to jog or walk or ride his bike or whatever. It's information that is not important. It's our
Except
person.
probably to health insurance providers who would buy that and use that for your rate adjustments.
So now you're seeing, right? Even, yeah, exactly. You're seeing those companies doing it. You're seeing companies giving their employees those devices. You wear this, and you get X spending money on a monthly basis or weekly basis that then you can use. I don't know for what. They give you points. Yeah, they're keeping tabs on you, right? But you have no, again, but we're going in a different direction. So we go back to the IoT issue, right? So how do you secure that, right? So putting a 509 certificate on a Fitbit, is that is that the way to? I don't think it's the way to go. Who's going to install and maintain that? Is the end user going to install an X509 certificate?
If they don't, I wonder if could it be set up through the router on the Wi-Fi network to maintain the certificate? If you just
It,
kind of had a turnkey experience or maybe an agent installed on your network that would
so it could
monitor
be.
that, prevent, monitor I mean, this is getting
Yeah.
out there, but your off the shelf Netgear router, does it have its Netgear software that, monitors for unusual traffic? Hey, we're seeing a lot of traffic going out to port 50,700 or whatever. We don't do that. We don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
Just give you a little pop up on the screen or something. But
I don't know. I mean, that could be one way to go, but again, so now now we're going in a different direction, right? Now that we understand the mechanics of the of or the architecture of a Fitbit device, right? We understand that most probably we cannot put antivirus or a firewall on that device. Where the hell are we going to put that in for that? There's no room for that, right?
right,
The second thing is that device is that device IP based or not? Most probably it's not, right? Because if such a small device, you're going to put a real-time operating system RTOS, which is doesn't have IP anywhere, right? So the communication is through what do you call it?
doing that.
No, the communications between the device and your other device where you install the application using Bluetooth. So it doesn't need to have any type of IP anything,
Right.
right? So what I forgot what they call it, near field, nearby. I don't know.
Communication, NFC.
Yeah, some exactly. So no IP involved. All of a sudden, then if there's no IP involved, can you then keep saying that you need to put X509 certificates? I thought X509 certificates was part of IP. I don't know. Like I said, I'm doing research on that stuff and all these things that I never wanted to play with. All of a sudden, now I have to go ahead and do research on this other technology just to understand how it plays into this. So I'm going to say that certificates PKI is it's IPsec type of stuff, IP based. And so if you don't use IP, then you cannot use that stuff. I don't know. That's what I'm doing research on.
I would say so, and I don't see why we just can't deprecate Telnet. Just don't even allow that protocol through routers
So
off the
so
show.
so that's another thing. So anyway, so that's on the personal stuff, right? So it opens up a lot of stuff, a lot of questions, right? Communications. If you're not using IP, then how you encrypting communication? So the good thing is that there are some standards that allow you to do encrypted communications. But anyway, but that's another thing that again part of what trying to discover. So now let's move into the smart meter, right? And I haven't taken a look at any smart meters. In fact, one of my to-dos is to identify a couple of smart meter um, companies, right? Who that design those smart meters and find out how the heck they work, right? That's in my to-do list. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So, but I'm going to assume that a smart meter will come with a at least an ARM-based processor, pretty high tech, high end. Um, and usually those ARM-based processors, the I think it's the Cortex M, something like that. I did research on hardware virtualization on mobile devices about 3 years ago when I was at HP. So I've learned while I was doing that research for security, right? Hardware virtualization for security on mobile devices. I learned that there's only like two or three major players on CPUs: ARM, Intel, and Qualcomm, I believe, right? And even Apple
Sounds
uses. Huh?
so that sounds about right. I know they're like a big chip manufacturer
Yeah,
for
exactly.
mobile.
So for example, Apple uses their design based on the ARM design, one of the ARM design. So anyway, so I did a lot of research, and that was scary. That every single device depends on some of these manufacturers. And now one Japanese company purchased ARM sometime in 2016. But anyway, so I know that then I'm going to assume that the smart meters, because they have to be really well protected, that they're going to use not a top of the line CPU ARM coprocessor, but a coprocessor that's pretty sturdy, right? Pretty strong, pretty good. That comes with your Type 1 hypervisor. I think Type 1 hypervisor, if I remember correctly, is your hardware hypervisor, and that it does security on the chip itself, right? So in there you can store certificates, right? You can do encryption because it will be able to handle encryption at the chipset level, which is pretty cool. Again, you don't see that on the Fitbit, right?
No.
But you will definitely see it on a smart meter. I'm going to assume that. So because of that, now the smart meter is going to use some type of Linux. It's not going to use a real-time OS. It's going to use a strong Linux. And this is where I stopped, right? Because I watched a video, DEF CON IoT Village from two years ago. And the guy there, I forgot his name, he was saying that a lot of these devices that use Linux are using like two or three previous revs. So, dude, that right there is scary. So so here's a smart meter from critical infrastructure, right? And CSP is the big keyword, right? Number CSP, forgot what it stands for right now, but I just know the CSP. And since I'm a consultant, I throw a lot of acronyms because it makes me sound smart, right?
That's right.
But CSP, I gotta figure out really quick what CSP stands for. Uh, critical system something. Anyway, uh, so yeah, so this device will definitely have one of those pretty good ARM chips, right? But it's going to go again with a Linux that's two or three previous revs. So
And that's
that's,
because they know it works. We don't want to break anything if we patch.
but it means it comes with two or three previous generations known of
Exploits.
vulnerabilities, exploits. Yes.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I got a story for you when you finish it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was uh I was in Seattle, I guess, last spring. I went to go visit a friend of mine who works up there, and actually went to a security meetup up there with a friend of friend of yours, Mr. Brian Brake.
Oh
But
yeah.
we had gone to it was one of those chain restaurants, and they have on the counter the tablets where you can swipe your card and pay and everything like that. And it just kind of disturbed me because there's also a front facing camera on there. And so, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I mean, that's really annoying and intrusive. And so I'm looking at it to find out, that just seems dumb. If you're doing payment processing on this, doesn't seem secure. It's not bolted to the floor. I mean, it's got a little brace around it, but you can pick it up and move it. I flipped it down.
Hold
I'm
on one second.
looking.
Hold on one second.
Yep.
CPS. CPPS in Peter S. Cyber Physical Systems. That's what he meant. Okay, I'm sorry.
Cyber physical systems. All right. The more you know.
There you go.
Yeah. But you look at it and it's got its FCC ID on there. And so I pull up my smartphone, I start Googling it, and I'm looking at the patent filings that this company had made for it. And it was using an old version of Android. I think it was the one that was vulnerable to, what was it, shell shock or whatever
Okay.
buzzword thing around the time. Uh, you can look at the radio frequencies that it broadcast on. There's no cellular frequencies. There's no Ethernet port on there, so it's sending data wirelessly. If it doesn't have cellular, that means likely it's doing Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, which means that your data, your traffic, you swipe that card, it's going across via
There you go.
Wi-Fi. And do you think like whatever chain restaurant
Yeah,
you can name is
that's it.
got some real strong security protocols in place for that? Yeah, I don't really think so.
No. And again, that's a freaking perfect example of IoT, right? That is IoT. All is a point of sales device that all it's doing is one thing: capturing information and sending it out. That's it,
Yep.
right? So so anyway, so then you start going there, right? Going back to the smart meter thing, you have the strong CPU, and then you have the Linux. But now you find again how many developers are going to know to remove stuff that they don't need. That's that meter device doesn't have to have a HTTP server enabled. Can you do you need to communicate to that device, or is communication only from that device going out? Well, we know it's only going out. So do you need to have telnet enabled? Do you need to have, again, HTTP server enabled, and all this other stuff? They're not going to remove it,
No,
right?
because every environment is different, and
There you go.
depending on who their clients are, I guarantee you, Con Edison in New York doesn't have Con Edison employees configuring these devices out of the
Correct.
box tailored to their network. They're going with whatever the
The provider
manufacturer
gave them.
gave them that turnkey experience, because that's what we're paying you the
Correct.
money for, is the turnkey experience.
Correct. So again, so then you start going, more and more. It's like, okay, so how are they going to communicate, right? So how is the smart meter going to communicate? Is it going to be cabled? Well, no. Is it going to be wireless? Probably. Okay, if it's wireless, what type of communication? Are we going to build a Wi-Fi around those things, or a mesh network, WiMAX network? Are we going to go cellular? There's a whole bunch of stuff, right? And whatever direction you want to go, now you find something else. And I want to show you something really quick here, which is pretty awesome, which is one of the reasons why this thing is so freaking complicated. Let me see. Let me see. You see my screen there?
I see you.
Okay, hold on. I thought I was sharing. Okay, hold on. So anyway, so I'm just going to show you something here. Let me just get back here again. Where do I stop sharing? Okay. Oh, I don't know. I thought I was sharing. Anyway, so screen share. Yeah, right there. Can you see it now?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
There we
Anyway,
go. There we go.
okay, good. So in the background, you're going to see a list of. I'll present it to everyone. Oh, anyway, in the background, you're going to see a list of. I don't. I'm seeing this, and it's all like backwards in reverse. Are you seeing it okay?
Yeah, it looks fine to me.
Okay, good. So in the background, you're going to see a whole bunch of what they call the Internet of Things Landscape 2016, right? And you see a whole bunch of logos and everything. Those are all the companies that have come out with products for IoT for different areas, right? You have software, hardware, connectivity. You have vehicles, home, enterprise, right? So 360 plus IoT platforms, 100 plus protocols. Holy shit, right? You see that? All of a sudden, it's like, did I lose you?
uh,
No.
your video cut, but
There we
I
go.
can
No, that's
still
good.
hear you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on. So the hold on. Let me just do this in here. Okay. So that's weird. Why did I lose video? Anyway, so there's too many devices, too many platforms, too many protocols, 100 plus protocols. There's 120 plus alliances, right, or organizations that are looking to create standards. So I go back to the original question that pissed me off and got me into doing research into IoT. How then, with all of those freaking, different things, how can you, as a security consultant, come out and make blanket statements about how to secure IoT? See what I'm
Well,
saying?
you can't make accurate statements.
You can't. You can't. Again, and we took just the basics, right? The X509 certificate. How are you going to apply that to a Fitbit? Well, no, you can't. Why not? Because I don't know. Okay, then why are you freaking them making those blanket statements, right? So, and again, this is the reason why I wanted to start doing this. If you see, you saw just by that one last screenshot that I showed you how complicated the IoT ecosystem is. And I didn't know any of that stuff, right? I
No,
didn't
this is an
know
eye opener for me. I didn't know it was. I mean, this is obviously a
100
problem, but I didn't know it was so in depth to that regard. That's insane to me.
100 plus protocols. Holy shit. That's Let me see if I can find another one just really quick and then we call it a day here. Um, but this is another one that I loved that let me see if I find it. That shows, yeah, there we go. I want to share this with you. Hold on. I lost it. But this one basically shows the landscape right now with all the protocols, all the standards. Let me see if I find it. And that's just a snapshot. I mean, that's just a little one. Let me just share it here. Hold on. And again, this is I mean, to me, it was an eye opener as well. Tell me you see it.
Oh wow.
You see that? And let me see. I present to everyone. Okay. So what that showing you here is the ecosystem of IoT standards. And again, this is just a subset. So if you go for internet, which is basically, you know, for internet communications, how are we going to communicate across the internet? IEEE, IETF, perfect, right? Then you freaking go 3WC, NIST, IPSO, which I didn't know what it was until I started doing research on IoT, NFC Forum, Wi-Fi Alliance, right? Then underneath that, you have something called alliances. This is where a group of companies are coming together and trying to come up with standards. And this is where the 120 plus freaking standards come from. All right.
Right.
So you have all join, all sin, Apple HomeKit, this one Thread, which is basically Google, right? Because they purchased it, I think, not too long ago. And then you have the verticals, which I'm assuming are the companies or the groups focused on specific verticals. I don't know which verticals are. Then you have your open standards, Eclipse, Oasis. Oh my God, OMG. Then you have your telecom, which is basically what I was getting back. We started this conversation here. How do you communicate, right? So decide how you're going to communicate. You're going to communicate through the internet. Then go to the internet and take a look at IEEE, IETF, Wi-Fi Alliance, NFC, IPSO, MHL. Choose one of those standards because you cannot choose all of them, right? Oh no, I want to use cell. Then stay with telecom. Which one? Right? And you had the proprietaries that not even underneath the connectivity, right? Sigfox. I didn't know who the hell this company is. Sigfox is a company that because the telecoms are not providing a good way for communication for IoT devices that are low priced. So this company, I think they're in Belgium or somewhere in Europe, they decided to make their own freaking company, and they're getting like millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to provide that service. Then you have satellite as well. So this is what I went, when I start doing my research and I find this thing, I'm like, how in the hell do you go and do you tell clients, don't worry, we can help you be secure? How?
I would just say, don't use IoT.
Basically, right? Basically, and that's why, and we're gonna stop here because we're already close to an hour. But this is where we go, and and I say, 5 to 6 years, 5 to 6 years, we're going to start seeing something happening, right? Right now is the wild, wild west. I used that a while ago. There's no way you can do anything without standards. Number one, right?
No, and I think it's a lot of those are just going to have to fall in line with other ones and adopt it. I mean, that when I look at that, it just started reminding me of. I mean, it was a little bit before my time, but like Betamax versus VHS,
But there were two.
HD DVD, and Blu-ray. Yeah, there was only two then, and you said how long that took to get
100
resolved.
120 standards, 100 plus protocols. Dude, I was looking at a video of this guy from 2013. It's a professor talking about IoT Ethernet protocols, just Ethernet protocols. Oh my God. He was talking about 5 or 6 different ones that I haven't even heard of. I'm like, I thought I knew about Ethernet. Well, I guess I don't. I have to go back and learn about Ethernet protocols for IoT. It's incredible. Here's the scary part, right? So you hear the numbers, 20 billion connected by 2020. You know that they just came back with a new number for that one, and now they're saying 50 billion in 2020. How did it double, more than double in less than a month? The predictions.
I don't know. I mean, I have reservations about those numbers anyway. Like, where did they
But
pull
you don't. You
from?
don't, because they're, in a car, for example, if I remember correctly, reading about this, the smart cars have at least, just one car has at least 100 separate IoT devices.
Start pulling
So,
fuses.
but you see what I'm getting. I mean, this is very scary, and that's why, the two, and I forget their names now, but the two researchers that came out about hacking cars, they saw this. They saw exactly this that I just showed you. And to a researchers, that's a gold mine, right? The researchers that want to get into IoT research, man, you get you got work for life right there, buddy.
The world is your oyster, my friend.
So, but anyway, I think that what I wanted to do with this first broadcast, and I appreciate you coming on board. Um,
I'm glad you had me.
it was just to open up eyes, to bring, to show people what I've been finding out. And this is just 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks worth of research, right? And I haven't gone into any type of detail. I'm just going to start going into detail right now because I figure there's no way I can continue doing research on IoT for everything. You notice 300 plus different providers. You start going into multiple platforms, right? Azure, what the hell you pronounce it? Microsoft has their own IoT platform. Intel has their own IoT. GE has their own IoT platform. Amazon, IBM, right? And those are just five that I remember. These are five different platforms where you can go and develop different
Big
IoT
players in them
solutions.
too.
Yes, yes, but you can go and develop with their platforms different solutions in IoT, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one vertical and just focus on that, um, because it's impossible. If I keep going the way that I'm going right now, I'm going to give up and just roll over and cry or something. I don't know. But you notice that. I mean, you notice, just that one thing, that last thing that I showed, the complexity, and then the previous one with the 260 plus different companies out there, and that's just a few, the well-known ones, right? We didn't even get to the point right now as to what an IoT device actually is. What makes an IoT device? We didn't even get to that yet. And look, we spent 1 hour talking about just the basics, just scratching the surface So that's what I want to do with this thing is, yes, you know, keep sharing what I find. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to have people like you and join me live. Have like about 3 or 4 of us live here and just having a discussion. Right? Here's the topic that I found. Let's discuss this because you brought up some good points, and you haven't focused on IoT, but you brought up some really good points. Um, right? And that's the whole idea. That I think it's going to help me proceed faster. It's going to help everybody else get to a different level as well, I think, and that's what I want to do. So hopefully people will join on the next one. And I appreciate you, Ben, coming on, dropping your CISSP book, and having spending some time here with us and with me. And buddy, happy New Year, man.
Yeah, man. Happy New Year to you, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you, man. I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Just hit me up anytime you need
I
somebody to
will.
come fill a spot, dude.
I will. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk
All right, man.
later.
Take it easy.
Bye, man.
Later.